Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and the new Pixar film Soul surely came out with more questions about the wider Pixar universe than it actually answered, considering it doesn't just impact everything we know about the Pixar universe during Joe's lifetime, but literally from the beginning all the way to the end of the entire timeline. It is the widest length Pixar, as literally the two main settings we see in the film is the Great Before, as in before time has happened, and the Great Beyond, with the conveyor belt leading to the afterlife, as in after time has happened. So there's a lot to look at in this movie to do with time. Personally, the way I see it is that the Great Before and the Great Beyond don't really have any time. Time is non-existent. However, the portal down to Earth runs parallel to the chronological timeline that we see on Earth, simply just because whenever Joe goes back down to Earth, time hasn't moved backwards, it's only ever moved forwards. However, that brings up the huge question of, if this is running parallel to Earth, what happens when, according to the Pixar theory, cars are roaming the entire world, or humans aren't even on Earth, even monsters are ruling the entire Earth? You know, do monsters and cars and literally everything else that isn't a human in the Pixar universe have souls? Well, let's find out. But before we go any further, please make sure that you click that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so you get notified every time I make a brand new video. And since there is loads and loads of different types of species from Pixar, which we are all going to be covering in this video, there will be lots of different video chapters down below on this video if you just want to look at a certain species and see whether we have theorized whether they think they have a soul or not. Just to let you guys know. And prepare yourselves, guys, because this is going to be a long one. So guys, this question has literally been bugging me ever since I first saw the movie. You see, there's two ways the film shows us of how we could solve this problem of whether anything in the Pixar universe, apart from humans, have souls. Firstly, there's the cat on the conveyor belt. During the middle of the film, when Joe first goes into the cat, their souls are switched, and the cat soul ends up on the conveyor belt. And since this soul clearly looks like a cat, that must mean that there's probably a soul world for any animal or species, such as souls for dogs and horses and etc. However, then there's the scene where 22 explains why she uses a female voice that sounds annoying, and we see her literally transform into different beings. We see her turn into an old man, a baby, and even Joe himself, showing souls can easily transform into anything they want. And when we first meet 22, she transforms into what I'm just going to call like a blob on the floor thing. And 22 herself even says when she shows Joe pizza that they can't taste, they can't touch, they can't smell, and it's all just a hypothetical world. So we have two contrasting scenarios here. One where there's different types of souls, i.e. souls from humans and souls for cats, souls for dogs, and etc. But the other one where souls can literally be any type of soul and transform into humans, animals, etc. So which one is it? Or is it a mixture of the two? Firstly, let's get probably the biggest thing out of the way, and that is, what are the souls like when humans aren't dominant on the world? And are there even any souls at all? This happens two times during the Pixar timeline. Firstly, when technology evolves so much and takes on the traits of humans, where we get the film Cars, and when literally technology and man and animals and basically everything has just evolved together to form monsters, and this all takes place across hundreds and thousands of years. Now, I think we can all agree the monsters definitely have souls, as they're just way too complex, and the cars, even though they seem to take on the personality of a human soul, they're very much separate things. So has there always been souls for cars and monsters? I reckon not. Notice how before I spoke about how in the soul world there seems to be no time, however it does seem to rule parallel to Earth's chronological timeline. Therefore, at some point in the soul world there would have been no need for humans once they've gone extinct. However, the portal to Earth would very much still be open. And that's when I saw something that had literally been staring at us in the face, which just answers this question of whether monsters and cars have souls. Look at all of the newborn souls in the soul world, and then look at all the people who have died or came through from Earth into the realm of lost souls. They're all souls, but there's one key difference between them, and that is feet. Literally, I'd noticed it but never looked twice at the fact that Joe has feet but 22 doesn't, and I think Pixar would only include this if it was important. Notice how the feet on the dead souls or the souls in the lost realm are there all simply because these souls represent humans. However, as we've seen, newborn souls can change their appearance to fit any need, as it's all hypothetical. And 22 clearly isn't really identified as any living being. She looks any much like the soul of a monster as she does of the soul of a human, and maybe that's the exact reason. My theory is that whenever a new dominant species takes over the Earth, so when the humans rule, or the cars rule, or the monsters rule, the souls stay the same in the Great Before, but change the way their feet look and the way their body looks whenever the new species takes over. And that's why these souls float, as they're waiting to change their feet to fit the certain species, as that symbolizes the difference. And the Jerrys even say when Joe first meets them,
"I am the coming together of all quantized fields of the universe, appearing in a form your feeble human brain can comprehend."
That clearly it's whoever the dominant species is on Earth of who they choose to look like. So the Jerrys probably look like cars when the cars are taken over, as we see they can easily change as well. Okay, so that's the dominant species part of the way, but there's a lot more of Pixar's creations that need to be answered. Let's move on to toys next. Now, ever since Inside Out, the basic idea of how toys really came to life was human memory, and that's why the toys require to be played with, else they just become forgotten and a lost toy. And it's what Woody is all scared of when he's broken in Toy Story 2, and it's why the toys are so eager to get played with in Sunnyside in Toy Story 3, as it just creates brand new memories. Now, I still believe that's partly true, but Souls just adds something else to the mystery of how toys are alive. As like we've just discussed, it's only the dominant species who seem to have souls from the soul world, yet toys clearly have personalities of their own, so are we back to square one with who has souls and who doesn't? Not exactly. I'd say the best way to look at it all is to think of a Pixar human memory as actually soul energy. We see souls basically act as an energy source to a species throughout the film. In fact, the first time we see souls on the conveyor belt, we see the souls rise up to the giant white hole, I'm going to call it, and when they disappear, they are basically deleted like electricity, as we see the spark and personality of the soul being electrified. This gives us the big clue that the souls are basically just the electrical energy of a human or any other species, depending on who the dominant species is at the time. And there's hints of this energy even being exploited throughout the film, most predominantly during the lost soul realm of the soul world. Since souls are energy sources, that explains why when you focus enough on that energy, humans can literally break dimensions and travel to the soul world while still being alive on Earth. Or if they're depressed and have lost their soul, they have been so drained of that energy that it also transports them. So this shows that souls are basically energy sources, which means they can give energy to life around them, basically adding to the human memory theory we discussed before. I mean, there is literally a Pixar movie called Monsters Inc. where they collect energy from humans and use it for electricity. This can now make it clear as to why Scream and Laugh energy works, as it's electrical energy from the soul, and this could explain how the doors are created and can travel back in time, similar to how doors work in the soul world. But energy from souls generations ago, which would explain why the monsters can't just use their own soul energy. So toys work in a similar way. They don't have souls, but rather the soul energy is transported into the toys and it basically gives them life. And it makes sense because many of the toys do reflect their owner's personality as if they share the same soul. The biggest example would be Andy and Woody. And when toys die when not played with, it is because, like a battery, over time, they lose the energy unless topped up. Not like the actual toy battery we see Buzz have, because that only controls the sound effects rather than the personality of Buzz himself, but instead their soul battery. This is most notable with Wheezy in Toy Story 2, whose battery of soul energy is clearly running out, which is why he's dying, as he hasn't been with Andy for ages, and it explains why two different versions of the same toy, for example Buzz in Toy Story 2, You can have Buzz with one personality who reflects more of Andy's soul, and another Buzz who reflects more of different people's souls. This same idea works with other scenarios such as WALL-E. All of the WALL-E robots don't have personalities apart from WALL-E himself, and that's because he is always looking at old human stuff and interacting with humans on screen, showing the soul energy similar is heading into him, giving him a personality. But it's not happening to any of the other robots. And this also explains why all the robots on the Axiom with the humans have personalities, yet all of the robots on Earth without humans don't. And it can't be down to human memory, as the humans on the Axiom probably don't even know the robots are there, as they're just too busy watching TV. So instead, it's just their soul energy that's giving these robots their life. Speaking of the Axiom, let's talk about Onward. Now, if you've seen how Onward fits into the Pixar theory, it's quite complicated as it takes place on literally a different planet. But originally, it was evolved from humans going out to space, similar to how they're doing in the Axiom. I don't think that there is suddenly now other soul worlds for them, because as 22 always says, the great before and the great beyond are just hypothetical. They aren't actually part of time, so there's most likely just one soul world. But continuing with the dominant species idea, it would make sense for the souls to just open up any portals to other worlds, such as the planet in Onward, and just follow the chronological timeline as usual. So when there was only life on Earth, only have a portal to Earth opened. Oh, wrong movie. But when humans leave to other planets, open up more portals to the other planets, and the whole dominant species thing happens again, so souls would then transform into elves and other beings we see in Onward when they head down to that certain planet. And in the Hall of Everything, we literally see the Axiom before it's being created, so the souls and the Jerrys know eventually species are going to migrate to other worlds, and they'll have to expand the range a soul can head to. But now we come back to the big problem with this whole idea, and it all stems back to that stupid cat on that conveyor belt, and that is to do with animals having souls, because throughout the Pixar universe there's many times where animals clearly don't have any personality, and then there is loads of times when they do. And we really can't use the whole idea like we did with the toys and the robots, because there's many times where the dominant species on Earth isn't with them. Most notably in Finding Nemo, where Marlin and Nemo don't even really know what a human is at first, and in The Good Dinosaur, where clearly humans aren't the dominant species just yet. However, Marlin, Nemo, Dory, Arlo, Flick from A Bug's Life, and Remy from Ratatouille, they all have lots of personalities, even animals such as Doug in Up. So, do animals have souls? Well, for this, let's go right back to the very beginning of the Pixar universe, where we have The Good Dinosaur. And as I've been saying, souls take on the form of whichever dominant species is on Earth, and in The Good Dinosaur it clearly is not humans. Humans are very limited, and dinosaurs with other animals are the dominant species, as the asteroid hasn't hit Earth yet. And that is very clear, as Arlo definitely has a personality and a soul, whereas Spot doesn't really have one. More like he's getting soul energy like we discussed from before from Arlo. However, we know just from basic science and Pixar theory in general that dinosaurs just evolved into different animals and grew along with humans. So there would have been a time where there wasn't really any dominant species on Earth, as humans weren't as advanced, and it was just a mix of humans and animals until eventually humans took over, and the souls then began taking the human form instead of the animal form when they land on Earth. However, because of that, it would mean that when humans took over, no animals would then have souls, and clearly that isn't true. Remy is the great example of this, as he definitely seems to have a soul, yet humans are the dominant species at the time. But there is one key difference between this and the dominant species scenarios we've discussed before. Before, when we said humans were dominant, and then cars were dominant, so souls took the form of cars, and then monsters were dominant, so souls took the form of monsters. Notice how each time, every single version of the past species is just completely wiped out. When cars take over, there is no more humans. When monsters take over, there is no more talking cars. However, when humans take over, animals aren't fully wiped out, which means I reckon gives some leeway for some animal souls to still be created, even when animals aren't the dominant species anymore. And since the soul world literally knows everything that will ever happen, they can give only certain modern day animals souls and others not. This would explain why characters such as Dory, Marlin, Nemo, Remy, and Flick have personalities, as they have been chosen by the Jerrys to have souls, but the herd of bugs and the herd of rats that follow the rest of them don't really have any mind of themselves, as well as animals such as Sid's dog, which just follows whatever Sid wants and doesn't have a mind of its own. The Jerrys would only choose souls to go into animals if they know they're going to have a big impact on the world. For example, they gave Dory a soul because in Finding Dory, it has a massive impact on helping fish escape, and they give Remy a soul as he literally goes and creates restaurants around Paris, which just has a huge impact everywhere. And finally, to further support this, the film actually gives us some statistics about how many souls there has ever been, and it kind of points to the suggestion that up to this point, since only animals and humans have been around, clearly there has been some animals that have had souls at some point in time. Because currently in today's society, studies reckon that there has been around 107 billion humans ever to live. That's including all of the dead and all of the living. And in Soul, we see in the video when they're trying to mentor to Joe that there has been over 108 billion souls currently who have ever gone down to Earth. This means there's around sort of 1 billion difference of other souls that clearly aren't humans, but clearly must be something else. That just proves further that these 1 billion souls must have turned into animals. So there we go. That has solved the idea of how certain animals have souls and how certain ones don't, of how humans have souls, of how monsters have souls, of how elves have souls, of how robots have souls, and of how cars have souls, and toys and all that sort of stuff. It's basically solved everything. But we've still got that annoying cat on the conveyor belt. But I think we may have just already answered it. As seen in the movie, the cat is a therapy cat and just listens to its owner all the time. That's why she freaks out so much when Joe is controlling its body. So clearly this cat doesn't have its own soul, which means that the cat soul we see on the conveyor belt isn't actually the real soul. Why? Because of the eyes. There just aren't any. The cat soul thing we see in the Great Beyond is just the massive energy that has been set off by Joe's soul squeezing into the cat's body. The cat's actual soul is still in there in the cat with Joe's soul. Joe is immediately able to move and act like a cat. This is because the two souls are working in harmony, with the more advanced species in dominant control, as we've been discussing. Since the souls at this moment take on human form, it means Joe is more in control. However, when Joe is in the cat's body and he's in his apartment, he appears to act very cat-like. When the sun comes through the glass, the cat soul takes control, which is why he acts like that, and then the phone goes off, Joe's soul becomes the dominant soul. It also explains why the cat goes back to normal once Joe leaves the body, as otherwise the cat should be dead. But anyway guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. It has been a really long video, so please smash that like button down below if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure that you tell us down below in the comment section, do you think that we have answered basically every single type of species that Pixar's tried to throw at us? And do you think we've answered which ones have souls and which ones don't? Let us know down below all of your thoughts about these many different theories, whether you think toys have souls, robots have souls, elves, monsters, humans, animals, cars, you know, the list just goes on. Make sure you put all of your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, we've been here at Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.